Now, it might seem strange after talking so much about YouTube and WordPress, blogging, Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms that there might be even more. I mean, after all, we stuck with newspapers for pretty much a good few hundred years before deciding they were redundant. But such is the nature of social media and IT to an extent in the workplace, that there is always something new coming about. Now, not all of them will stick. Some of them will be quick sensations. Some of them will perhaps have a slower, longer burn. But it's handy to have an idea of them just so that you're aware of what's coming, because again, the point being that very few of these platforms are here forever. But if you can embed into your business the idea of change and the idea of being able to react quickly to the new opportunities, it puts you in a very good position for being able to make the most of it all. Pinterest is fortunately moving away from this idea that Twitter users have, that everything needs a tw in front of it, but unfortunately we now have a p in front of everything. And what we have with Pinterest is pretty much an online pin board where you pin pictures of things that you've seen online that interest you. It seems fairly straightforward, and it is. I mean, that's what it does boil down to. You see a picture you like, you click your pin it button, away you go. And before you ask how do you set up a pin it button, when you set up an account, it pretty much does it automatically for you. All you have to do is one quick piece of drag and drop. And at the moment this is invite only, but if you drop an invite in, you should hear back from them in about 2 weeks saying you're up and running. And as with many social media sites, you have the option to share what you find on Pinterest to your Facebook followers and to your Twitter followers, which to an extent to me makes it a little bit more redundant, because surely you're on Pinterest for things on Pinterest. You shouldn't be having to cross post and cross promote, but a lot of people think there's nothing wrong with that. And one thing that is interesting about Pinterest is that at the moment we're recording this in the early days of 2012, and as I say, it's very much still in a beta sort of invite only state, but it heavily skews towards females and towards females who say that they're strong online consumers. So if that's your audience or your market for online, Pinterest may be something that you want to consider, because again, you don't have to create anything of your own. All you have to do is share the things that you do find online and you find that are useful or interesting. So a whiskey company could share whiskey cooking recipes or pictures of such things, or just nice pictures of whiskey bottles, or just nice pictures of whiskey, or nice pictures of whiskey events, that sort of thing. Restaurants can share pictures of food, restaurants can share recipes. There's a lot that if you start to think in a more pictorial sense, there's a lot that can be shared. Again, you just have to ask yourself if you're willing to take the time to keep it updated with content, and invest the time and energy into socializing with those who are on there, because as you can see from this screen, you can leave comments to go with material. Moving on from Pinterest, we also have Path, which claims to be an online journal for you. As it says there, the journal that helps you share life with the ones you love. Now, again, Path gives you the option to broadcast about, but this is really, as someone else described it, Facebook for friends. Path sticks with this Dunbar limit of 150, and at no point can you have any more people on it. Some people like it for private thoughts and a sort of diary idea. Many other people don't see the point. For brands, it's very early days to see if there's much benefit to be using it. But again, it has a bit of buzz at the moment, so maybe worth considering, at least on a personal level, if not a wider level. Prezi, continuing this idea of everything in 2012 is going to be popular with a P, is nothing more or nothing less than a very, very fancy presentations tool. Now, you may be going, oh, big deal, we've got PowerPoint, but most people are bored to tears by PowerPoint presentations. Now, it's very true that yes, they can be made more glamorous, they can be made more exciting if people take the time and effort to actually make them more exciting, but the sad fact is that most people don't. Prezi has come along to try and make things a bit more exciting, a bit more jazzy, and basically freshen up your presentations. For example, look at this opening slide from Coca-Cola. If you play that, and the next thing you get is that slide. But if you have a look, you'll see that that's actually the slide that's on top of the Coca-Cola bottle. And when you watch this in Prezi, it swoops in very impressively and it takes you to that, and then when you keep going forward it takes you to that, which is one of the other pictures to the side of the Coke bottle. Now, there's two things about Prezi that have to be pointed out, because it can be very fun and it can make a presentation really stand out. The things you need to bear in mind are, if you do a Prezi, you need to have everything out that you need before you kick off. It lends itself very well to pictures. It's not just one picture and a bunch of bullet points. So if you want to do something in Prezi, make sure you've got a lot of the images that you need there and you're able to pull together in a fairly decent and structured narrative. The other thing to bear in mind is that to do it well, you do have to spend some time on it, because you can tell when anyone's done the first Prezi because it spins here, it spins there. You know, some people have actually complained of getting motion sickness from people putting in too much spin and special effects into their Prezi presentations. So again, you can spend some time just to get used to it and just to make sure it looks good and looks slick without being over the top. And of course, it's a perfectly fair thing to ask yourself, is that if I spent that time learning a bit more about PowerPoint, could I make it look better there instead? And that's something that really only you can answer. Instagram, now this may seem like quite a surprise, but already you're seeing brands develop Instagram quite well and have competitions online. And again, this is about photos and pictures, and Instagram is very little more than an app to take a picture, put a filter on it and send it online for people to see. And the reason there's a silence is because that is it. You know, there is little more to Instagram. But again, it's built up this fantastic community online where people are going on, sharing pictures, showing people what they think of it. They're gathering followers. So there's a lot there again. You know, it's about this idea of sharing and of engagement. And brands can latch on to that, either by getting people to submit pictures to them or by sending pictures in themselves and having others share them and tell the world what they think of them. Kilter is pretty much the Scottish Facebook. It's very much that idea, as it says there, the professional social network for everyone with a Scottish connection. Now, I've played about with it and it does seem very much like a Facebook page for Scots or expats. But where this will get a lot of attention this year is because the guys do network it as, you know, Facebook for Scots, not a professional, so it's almost Facebook / LinkedIn for Scots. It's because this is a year that, you know, Facebook will have its IPO. There'll be companies looking about, there'll be venture capitalists looking about for other similar products to invest in, and in Scotland, Kilter has as much a chance as any of them of making the big time. But again, if you're just trying to reach a Scottish market, there's no harm in spending some time on there. Again, as long as you know you've got content and, you know, reasons to engage and you can justify being there. Dropbox isn't technically a social media tool, but it's used by lots of people who work in social media, so it's handy just to highlight it a little bit to you. In essence, all it is a shared folder on your computer. You set up a Dropbox account and you get a free 2 GB of storage, and basically what happens is you put files into that folder and you can then access them on any other computer. You can access them on your iPad, you can access them on your iPhone, you can access them at home, you can access them at work, you know, as long as IT have given you permissions to do so. And it also has a shared file spot and a public folder spot, and the public folder can be handy because in there you could put photos, you could put press releases, and you can share them with the world in general. So it's something that might be worth considering if you're in the habit of having to share links to files. That's just an example of a Dropbox folder and how it works. You know, as you can see, straightforward folder open, and then a bunch of things inside it. No shockers there whatsoever under any circumstances. But while it's nice to talk about, you know, what's shiny and what's new and what's exciting, there's two things to bear in mind and consider. First of all, concentrate on the basics first. You know, have a blog, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You know, look at these things. Go to what's the staple diet of online engagement before branching out into these more niche networks. And bear in mind, even though I say they're niche, some of them have millions of followers. And always think about what's the best platforms for you. But the reason you have to also be careful is that these platforms can come and go. A couple of years ago, Google Buzz was all the chat. There was also Google Wave, and both of these were scrapped. It's believed at some point that Google may scrap Orkut, which it bought a couple of years ago to compete with Facebook, even though Orkut is very popular in certain parts of the globe like India and Brazil. It's felt that Google especially can be ruthless if it wants rid of a product to support something else, or it hasn't achieved what it hoped for. So bear that in mind, that you may get really attached to a site. For all I know, you may be really attached to Friends Reunited, Bebo, or MySpace, but their time has been, and the conversation, the online engagement has moved on. And this is what you have to bear in mind, that platforms will change. These products will all change. They'll all morph into different things. Just as Apple was originally a computer company, and now it's known better for making phones and tablets. So the idea is that throughout all of this is that if you get into your company culture, this idea of adapting quickly, of responding quickly, of engaging quickly with your consumers and other stakeholders, you're going to be in a good place, because then it doesn't matter if Facebook vanishes overnight. Your company ethos is going to be to engage and to help and to share, and that's going to stand you good regardless of what platform comes about. Even if there was a wipeout of the internet overnight, just to have a company culture where you share and where you help and where you put the customer and your stakeholders first, that's a fantastic thing to have and can stand you in such good stead. Quora was another one, like Google Wave and Google Buzz, that people spoke about and said, oh, this is a game changer, this is going to be fantastic. And all it really was a fancy Q&A site. And Yahoo had something similar. LinkedIn had something similar. Most people were quite happy just to go onto Facebook and Twitter and ask questions of their friends anyway. So again, whenever you hear someone going, oh, this is the next big thing, or this is the next big thing, remember that there's been enough sites that have not caused problems, but have been scrapped, that you have to go, is it the next big thing? Does it bring benefit to us? Is it worth being an early adopter, or are we as well just hanging out till its mass market acceptance? Questions only you can ask by sitting down and working out your needs, what you want, and where people online who may be interested in you, where they are. And just to revise that, beg your pardon, just to come back to that again, always, regardless of platform, always ask yourself, what's the benefits? What is the business case for this? Could you if someone says to you, why have you spent 3 hours today on a platform? Can you justify it? Just as I said, if you spent 3 hours on the phone, could you justify that? Do you have content for it, and preferably unique content? All too many times you see companies going, oh, here's our Facebook update, which is identical to a tweet we just did, which is identical to what we put on LinkedIn, and that takes away from the strength of each platform. Always try and have unique and fresh content, and even if it's something similar, what may be suitable for a tweet, can you expand on it when it comes to the likes of Facebook? Can you add pictures to it for Facebook as well? Because remember, Facebook, you can have 420 characters versus Twitter's 140. So play to the strengths of both. And similarly, do you have time for it? And that's not just a day of time to go and set up the account. Do you have time to do it on a daily basis? Do you have time to analyse it and give evaluations on it? Do you have time to train others to use it as well? And a question that brings it back to the very first point, what's the benefit? Are your customers and stakeholders on it? If not, why are you going on it? Are there bragging rights from being the first there? Is there a publicity benefit? Do you believe your customers and stakeholders will be on it? Or does this let you tap into a new market? Again, it may seem like a lot of questions, but if you ask the questions up front before you put the work in, you'll reap the benefit, because you'll have a sound case and a sound reason for being on any social media platform.